everyone, welcome to the GrandLAN video blog for books that came out on February 3rd, 2010. As always, I'm Craig, your host. I got a little calendar over there now, it's pretty cool. So I don't have to reshoot all those opening moments. We got 8 books to talk about today, 2 from Radical Comics, 3 from DC, and 3 from Marvel. So let's get right down to it. Start with Radical on top. Aladdin, Legacy of the Lost, number 1 of 3. This is fantastic. Ian Eddington, who I've been saying Eddington, and maybe it is Edgington. I thought this was a typo. It turns out it's not. I did a little homework right before I went on the air. He writes a very interesting idea. He previously had done Stormwatch PhD. I was really a big fan of that. And here he's writing a very interesting twist on the Aladdin story. It's fun. I mean, it's good. It's a Radical comic, so you know what it's going to look like. I hate to say it, but they're kind of developing a little bit of a house style. That little darker print, but very lush painted, very old style illustration or painting, But still, a very good story, very interesting. Delves right in case you're not too familiar with the concept of Aladdin. It gets you right into it. Very, very accessible. You don't have to be a big fan of Arabian mythology to get it. It's a very, very fun book, and there's Tremors worms in it, so, It's not really the worms from Tremors, but it seems like it. It's good stuff. It's part 1 to 3. Radical Comics always puts out great stuff. They always send me preview copies, and I didn't preview it, but here it is, physical copy, and I read it, and it's good. Check it out. It's $4.99, but, I mean, square bound. You better believe it. Great stuff. Moving to DC, let's go with the Great 10, number 4. And every time, maybe I said this with number 3, but every time this comes in, I look at it and I go, man, I am in for the long haul. I got 10 issues here. I don't know how I feel about 10 issues of the Great 10. And then after I read every issue, I'm like, oh my gosh, Tony Bedard is doing a great job. Tony McDaniel, or Scott McDaniel, oh jeez, I totally screwed it up. I don't know. McDaniel, whoever the artist is, he's doing a good job, even though you got to get past that little, that cartoony little style that he had with Green Arrow. Still an amazing 10-issue miniseries. We're 4 issues in, and the pace of the storytelling is going well. Each issue is focusing on a different member. We're getting a lot more of storytelling about the characters in the Great 10, which is really what I wanted when I got into this book. So this is meeting all of my personal demands, that's for sure, and telling me a great story while I'm at it. This one is about the Immortal Man in Darkness, the fighter jet guy. Really interesting stuff. They're a fantastic group of creations by Grant Morrison. I'll give credit where credit's due, God of all comics, or whatever you want to be called because you're on the internet. Great storytelling team, great superhero team, and great storytelling behind it. Also telling a story well, introducing us a little bit cleaner to the characters than just throwing them around in the DC universe. Our other Radical offering this week is Legends the Enchanted. This is a number 0. It's a $1 comic, and it previews a $20 trade paperback. Nick Percival does some very interesting things, kind of a twist on Fables. Now, again, as I said in the earlier part, Radical does have that house style. It's kind of dark. It's painted. But it's very cool. It's very neat looking. There's kind of some really interesting textures. And this kind of goes off of a Fables idea. You meet Pinocchio. You meet Jack and his magic beans, and you see someone who vaguely looks like Little Red Riding Hood is what I'm guessing this cover is supposed to be. She's killing wolves, so obviously it's a nice little twist on that whole Fables idea. Now, obviously, Fables has already established itself, but I think there's a market for 2 interpretations. Just because Fables established itself, did it mean that Pinocchio Vampire Slayer was bad when it came out a couple months ago? No, it was a great idea. This is the same thing, it's exploring that idea of the fairy tales and stuff like that, and this Legends the Enchanted, and just exploring this concept of what can be done with these characters and twists on what we know of them from pop culture or tradition or whatever it is. So for only $1, you can't go wrong. It's a full-size comic for $1 pretty much. Very nice. Doesn't just read like a couple of paintings and then some text. It really does read like a comic book. It reads like the first issue of a comic book. So check it out for only $1. You can't go wrong. And then, like I said, if you like it after that, check out the trade paperback. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think. DC gives us Milestone Forever, part 1 of 2. And man, speaking of $5 prestige format trades, really nice solid book. This is fun. Oh my gosh. Our last of the Blackest Night Resurrected series from the dead is question number 37. I was intrigued by Greg Rucka, I'm not going to lie. Dennis Cowan on art and Bill Sienkiewicz does inks. Wow. That's crazy. Cowan and Sienkiewicz on art. And Denny O'Neil as well on the writing. I was also intrigued at the fact because I've studied the history of the question with Steve Ditko and what the question is supposed to be, and Ditko's philosophical approach and his mental approach to the question and what he's done with this character. And I think that it was very interesting that it was brought up recently in Detective Comics that something that Renee Montoya did, Todd Roeder said, Vic Sage would have been completely upset with what you did. And to explore the idea of how would you handle a character that has this, this real human being with his moral viewpoint behind the fictional character. But I think it's handled very well. The art is great. It kind of, has a little throwback gritty style. Really interesting stuff with Shiva shows up. It fits seamlessly into Rucka's question storytelling because there's the lighthouse and all that. So really good. Really fun book, and I'm pleasantly surprised. It didn't require an extensive knowledge of Blackest Night. All you need to know is Vic Sage is dead, so he's resurrected as a Black Lantern, and he's not flying around with a ring and shooting black gobs of things. He's just doing martial arts and fighting street style like he would have. Very good stuff. Very fantastic. Well handled for a Blackest Night tie-in. If you're a fan of Detective Comics, if you've been reading the backup stories, check out the question. Siege number 2 is here. We're pretty much just got Marvel books left. Check that out. Siege number 2 of 4. We're halfway through, and there are some holy crap moments, as they say. Ares in general. I'm sure it's been talked about. Ares. That's all I'm gonna say. Ares. Wow. Okay. A little gruesome. This is a T+ book. I don't know if that's a T+ scene, but we'll go with it. The rest of the stuff is very interesting. A lot of good stuff. You kind of see Bendis biting on Hickman's style in the back with the Shield, the Secret Warriors sort of thing. Still very cool to see the Secret Warriors involved, high profile. You can love a book like that and just find out that nothing else in the Marvel Universe has anything to do with it. So to see them involved in Siege and wisely used, not just in Secret Invasion as the Deus Ex Machina of the year, Fun stuff from Bendis and Coipel. They're covering a lot of ground. It's not typical Bendis. There's not a lot of, there's a little bit of snappy Spider-Man dialogue halfway through. And that's when I realized, I'm like, this is like the first snappy Spider-Man dialogue I've seen. And he's been on panel for a couple pages. Bendis is down to business. He's got 4 issues and he's going to do it in 4 issues. So very fun. You do get your $4 worth right there. Spider-Man Eyes Without a Face, part 3 of 4. David Hine, of course. David Hine, great stuff. This is still a very, very, it's a story that makes you uncomfortable. And that is sometimes good in storytelling. It's very interesting to go, hey, I'm going to put you in an uncomfortable situation. And as the reader, you're not always going to feel happy or joy or entertainment or excitement or adventure when you're reading something. Sometimes you need to feel uncomfortable. And that's what this book does. With Peter sleeping with the black cat, the inherent racism of the storytelling of the 1930s. Just still very good. A nice twist on the Spider-Man mythology. These characters continue to be played with and tinkered with and set up in a really nice way, not just a retelling of what if we told the Spider-Man story but nobody had powers. And it doesn't even matter anyway. Spider-Man has powers. Good stuff. Still a fun series. Ditto X-Men Noir, Mark of Cain, number 3 of 4. Exploring this idea of these characters and what you can do with them in an alternate setting and really breaking free. Like the first miniseries between the Spider-Man and the X-Men Noirs really established the characters, and here all the pieces are on the board, and in this situation Fred Van Lente and Dennis Calero running loose, just doing whatever they can with these to make them very, very cool, very interesting, and keep the twists and turns coming. Very fun storytelling. Artwork's a little dark sometimes. Dennis Calero kind of obscures faces a little too much, but nonetheless still a very good story. Very fun, excellent stuff from Marvel, finishing strong this week. That's it for this week. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.